Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 1, Episode 5. So, for this episode, we have some flashback stuff that does tie into Episode 2 and 3. And we are to also go on and kind of give a backstory for a character that we all kind of already knew what that backstory was, but eventually they're just like, okay, everybody's too smart. Here you go. Here's that backstory. And for within the last episode, we have the Fortress Inquisitor. That was to be the kind of the main focus, the big battle, the rescue mission. In this episode, we're kind of much more focusing on the Jedi Temple / Rebellion kind of location and going on and trying to give us some interesting kind of almost conclusion of the season. And plus with this also like kind of wrapping up the season, these episodes are of course to be like guaranteed to be good, so they are. There's some interesting things out of this. A lot of people could probably say that this show was fairly light, and I could probably agree with people, but also I had fun with this season. I would go on and just say that there was a lot of rescue missions going on with Leia, which took up a lot of time that really didn't need to be. But I'm feeling if they're going to go on and have a second season, especially with how this episode is to be at the very tail end of it, I'm assuming if there is a second season that they might be focusing much more on the Luke side of things, if there will be a second season, because Kenobi is still technically pretty young. So with that said, going on, really thumbs up episode easily, because I liked how they kind of tied in the prequels, and so hopefully we'll go on and have some interesting surprises and stuff within the last episode, because this episode was pretty surprising. Just like, oh, hey, here's how this character is shifting. Oh, hey, here's how this character is going in this direction now. That was pretty interesting. And then there was some kind of deaths that didn't feel all that that hard hitting, because these characters didn't exactly matter. Sadly enough, no one cared. So eventually, if someone died, oh well. So with that said, let's go into that double 5 time territory. Let's just go into spoilers, because kind of anything that I'm to kind of say here further into the teeing up version of this episode would just kind of correlate with spoilers. So I feel like all the teeing up that I just did to technically be very vague, though, but still, like the only thing that I could probably say is to tee this up is we have some interesting dialogue going from kind of Reva and Obi-Wan Kenobi that is to be really interesting for the story, but because there are certain times where we have it to where instead of these two just kind of battling it out, when we get to the Empire making their way to Obi-Wan Kenobi's base, we have a moment where both Reva and Obi-Wan are to go to this door and have this bit of dialogue, so that way Obi-Wan can like really just try and, as much as possible, kind of eat up time for Leia to hopefully go on and do what she is to go on and need to do with this episode, and to figure out what is to have happened to Lola also. So with that said, I think it's about that time to just let's go into that double 5 time territory. Let's just go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about the time we're going to spoil this episode. So we go on and we have Lord Vader that is so pleased with Reva that he's going to go on and deem her to be Grand Inquisitor, and he gives her the title, the little thing that she has to kind of put on her her kind of suit. So we go on and we have Reva, who is to take stormtroopers to this rebel base. So we go on and have seemingly a problem with this door for these guys to be able to leave this base so they can escape. And so Leia is taking this whole entire episode to just be in this one area where she can go on and be alone, because trying to find the right schedule for kids to go on and do what they need to do for the show is probably fairly difficult. So if they leave Leia in this whole room through the entire episode, they can kind of shoot around the fact that this girl can only be used for X number of hours upon the day, upon a week. So we go on, and Obi-Wan is to kind of seal these doors, and the Empire is coming. They realize this, the Imperials. So we have Obi-Wan that is to go on and first have a conversation with Reva when she comes. And so Obi-Wan is to tell Reva, it's like, well, hey, like, you had mentioned Lord Vader was Anakin by name. Like, you had to have known that Anakin was Darth Vader. And so you know that, of course, because you were yourself had to have been a Jedi. And so you were a youngling before. And Reva's like, yes, I was. So we go on, and in episode 3, we're showcasing that Anakin was to go on and kill younglings, but was to kind of leave Reva alive. So we have Reva who, because the Jedis had lost that battle, Reva had switched sides and became a Sith instead. So that's kind of her backstory. And so we have Reva who is to want to kill off Kenobi, but she also wants to kill off Anakin because she had been there when all those younglings had died, and this Anakin was to not think any highly of Reva at that time and want to be tempted to kill her off also. So Reva is wanting to just wipe anybody out who was tied to the prequel movies. So, speaking of flashbacks, we also have a training session going on between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, which is like, yeah, because this had some tying into Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, because, of course, Anakin's hair. Really trying to possibly have them bring back the way Anakin looked in Episode 2. But not only that, like, it seems that we went on and they were talking about a bunch of different hairstyles through the prequels, and how, like, at some point they were making fun of Obi-Wan Kenobi's mullet. And it's like, well, hey, man, like, he's going to have that mullet eventually when they go on into this episode, technically. Or they're going to try to, like, tweak or change that or try to do something different. So we go on and we have this training session between Obi-Wan and Anakin. And so Anakin is to really just outpower Obi-Wan Kenobi, where, like, with a lightsaber. And so Anakin is to consistently tell Kenobi to go on and yield. And so Obi-Wan is to go on and tell Anakin within the session that it takes more to beat somebody with just a lightsaber. You can go on and try to attack them till the cows come home with a lightsaber, but you also need the Force to also be able to defend yourself. And that's how Obi-Wan, when Anakin is to disarm Obi-Wan, when Anakin's back is turned, is to use the Force and is to take the lightsaber away from Anakin. And so with Obi-Wan being the only one with the lightsaber, Obi-Wan technically wins this battle in the end, when Anakin is to immediately think that Kenobi is defeated here. So we go on and we have Lord Vader, who uses this training of which that he had uh, later in this episode, and I thought that that was kind of so cool because we have a fight out that Vader has in this episode, and I was like, man, this is so cool. Just cool. Anyways, so now that all of that is over, that's taken care of. The flashback stuff. So we have Reva, who is to want to speed this up, and so she uses her lightsaber to open up this door, and so now we have it where Kenobi cannot waste any more time. So the rebels are going in, firing, killing some of the rebellion people, and some of the stormtroopers, of course, are getting killed and whatever. So we have the rebellion people that are trying to retreat, and eventually, while they go through this hallway, we have Ned B, who ends up getting killed, the loading droid that we saw from episodes before. He ends up getting killed, but also so does Tala. Tala is to go on and have this grenade-like device that I didn't Google and search whatever this was. I think at some point we had Leia have this same kind of grenade within the Jabba the Hutt palace when she was to go on and want to use that, and so Jabba the Hutt was like, "Hey, okay, like whoa, like we don't have to go and do that. No, 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 no." When Leia was to be that kind of like bounty hunter, and she had that mask on, and then when she revealed that she was Leia, so like technically that's a reference of that item being used at some point. So Reva is to go through this hallway and realize that Tala has this kind of grenade device, so they're like, hey, everybody get out of here. So Tala is to go on and tell Kenobi, it's like, well, hey, may the Force be with you. And Kenobi is to kind of backpedal and is to kind of mourn the loss of Tala. So we have Leia, who has spent this whole time connecting wires, also fixing Lola, who, of course, was to almost start attacking Leia. Leia goes and fixes Lola to where now Lola is on the light side of things and is helping Leia. So Leia is going on and fixing this and is to open this door so they can get the heck out of there. So really what happens here is we have Darth Vader that wants to make his way down to this location to kind of see what progress they have made. So because Kenobi is going to give these rebels more time simply by giving himself up. That's the only real strategy here, and so he's handing everybody all of his weapons, and is going to go out there and like kind of just like kind of throw the white flag up and just say that he gives up, so he can give these guys enough time to try to get out of here. Because all that matters is that they can just kind of get out of this place and kind of retreat. So we also, in the Fortress Inquisitor, because I saw a bunch of, like, Kenobi had, like, a bunch of just lightsabers all stacked. And we had in one of the Fortress Inquisitor rooms, there was a bunch of, like, lightsabers all around this table of all of the, like, lightsabers that eventually were all the Jedi that they had captured at some point, the Inquisitors. So I thought that was kind of a cosmetic, interesting choice. But when Obi-Wan arrives also on this rebellion base, he is to see Haja. Haja, of course, was the kind of counterfeit Jedi, or the Jedi that was going on and like pretending to be a Jedi. So Haja, of course, was to be kind of babysitting Leia, and eventually he's to try to go on and try to help out this scenario because everybody has to go on and do something here. So Kenobi goes on and surrenders, and so he goes through this hallway and is to make it to Reva. And so we have Kenobi that's telling Reva, it's like, well, hey, like, I only really surrendered so that way Vader can come down here, and then you can not only, like, have me, but then you can also have Vader. And Reva is kind of realizing, like, yeah, like, that seems to be, like, the real plan here. So the goofy thing that I don't understand is Kenobi gives himself up, and then is by the time that Vader arrives, we have Kenobi that is starting to make his way with some stormtroopers down that hallway again and back to where all the other rebels are, and they all escape. And now Darth Vader is to make his way to try and stop these guys from escaping, but they just escape from another ship. And so Darth Vader is kind of left to have to fight it out with Reva. And so Reva ends up using her lightsaber that is to go on and, like, it seems like it's Darth Maul's lightsaber because it has the double blade, but then it flips, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is like a rotation blade that we've kind of seen at some other points of this, but like to actually see it actually being used in a fight is really cool. So we have Vader that instead of going on and using his lightsaber right away, he uses his force power just like Obi-Wan had taught him. So Vader is using his force power, and really Vader here just uses his force power so often that he goes on and just straight up, like, just takes Reva's lightsabers and uses it against her, and is to dismantle the lightsaber and kind of toss her one and have him have one so they can still fight it out. So, like, between the Sith and Reva, there is like an honor thing here. It's not like he's just gonna go on and be like, well, like, I have this lightsaber, you're dead now. No, like, there's still like an equal opportunity to kill one another. But Reva is just obviously outmatched, as well as Kenobi was in the other episodes. So I'm like, yeah, like, they kind of built up Vader here to be way too strong. To where I'm like, how is he going to be able to snuff out like Luke in 4, 5, and 6? Like, Vader is too good. Vader is freaking amazing. And how is it that they don't also have that kind, like, how is it that they don't have the Darth Maul double lightsaber? How is it that they don't have like this kind of lightsaber that they use with the Inquisitors in 4, 5, and 6? Did all of a sudden they just stop making cool lightsabers after a certain portion of time? I don't get that. Because we just have the normal lightsabers in 4, 5, and 6. So, man, every time they do something unique with all these lightsabers, it just lessens the value of the prequels, but then also 4, 5, and 6. And then when we get to like 7, 8, and 9, it's like, oh, hey, yeah, that's where they finally did some unique things with lightsabers again. And then we have to go through all these old shows or all these newer shows and realize that they're still trying to up the ante of lightsabers. But again, it's just lessens the value of the old when you're going on, and you might as well just remake all the prequels, and well, maybe not all the prequels, but like remake 4, 5, and 6 so you can go on and do some cool stuff in those movies. Cause what else can you do? because they tried to remake them technically and like adding footage and garbage. So they might as well go on and remake 4, 5, and 6, even though I don't want them to, because I don't want them to also ruin 7, 8, and 9, because you would have like Leia's and Luke's and whatever, and like you would ruin a bunch of just Star Wars movies if you did that, but still. Anyways, plus the like everybody still loves the original Star Wars movies, 4, 5, and 6. So don't F with that. Just work around it. The fact that those just exist and they always will be, and until eventually somebody gets dumb and like, hey, let's remake those. No, how about we don't? So, anyways, we have Reva that fights with Darth Vader, and do you seriously think that Vader's going to lose this match? That he's going to get killed? No. We have the guy who was Grand Inquisitor before is to show up again and be like, hey, yeah, I'm still alive. We thought he was dead. Yeah, no. So he goes on and takes the badge of the Grand Inquisitor away from Reva and puts it on his suit because he's still the Grand Inquisitor. And so both Vader and Grand Inquisitor walk away. And so Vader is to stab into Reva the exact same way that he stabbed into her from Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, to just let her die here. And so Kenobi was to give Haja these certain items. He was to give him this hologram that Kenobi had went on and had talked or had this kind of thing with Senator Bale, where Senator Bale was talking about the mission that Kenobi was on and was talking about Leia and Luke, which is to be, of course, Anakin's sons and daughters. And I'm immediately thinking that somehow that message is going to slip to somebody. Because technically we had Reva who was to find that hologram because Haja dropped it. And so now it might slip into the hands of Reva knowing about Anakin's son and daughter. And that's how we'll know that Darth knows that Luke and Leia are to be his children for 4, 5, and 6. And I'm like, that's going to be a cool way to just kind of end this series with that whole message kind of leaking things out. And Kenobi also felt very uneasy while leaving and escaping. And he's like, well, maybe it's nothing. Like, I don't know, I feel like a disturbance in the Force, but I'm not quite sure what exactly it is. Maybe it was Tala dying, I don't know, because it didn't really matter that Tala died anyways, but I guess to some people it probably did. So with that said, hopefully I think that covers most of this episode. I kind of rushed through it. There might have been a thing that I forgot about here and there, but I kind of really rushed through this one. Leia was to be given a ladder to go up to that one place so she can go and cross wires together. And eventually they retrieved her so they could escape with her so she's not left there. Other than that, I really didn't understand the whole like Kenobi surrendering thing. But like then they just kind of gave him back to his people. Because Kenobi went on to use his force powers to take down the stormtroopers. And then Kenobi went right back to his people to kind of do this one last stand thing to have them kind of quickly leave. And because Reva was going to be the true person battling here. But yeah, so with that said, everything seems covered, but I'm very uneasy about that. I have a disturbance in the Force. to think that I didn't cover anything, because this was really quick. So with that said, if I forgot something, let me know in the comments below. I'm sure there was a big fat thing that I should have said, or I got names incorrect at some point. But at the end of the day, I'm going to get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.